Good morning. My name is Dr. Paul Kershaw. I'm a policy professor at the UBC School of Population Health and founder of Generation Squeeze. I'm here in advance of the federal budget on a mission to end seniors' poverty, and I come with a simple appeal. Prime Minister Carney's first budget must resist the retiree lobby and the Bloc Québécois. Both are pressing Ottawa to pour billions more into old age security in ways that would do too little to help seniors that need it and too much for those who don't need the help. They do so even as the Parliamentary Budget Officer reminds us that federal finances are already unsustainable. The deficit is nearly $70 billion, and our debt to GDP ratio is no longer expected to decline over the medium term. Despite this, the Canadian Association of Retired Persons, or CARP, has launched its Hands Off OAS campaign. Its first demand of Budget 2025 is to boost OAS by $890 for every retiree, not just those over age 74. The Bloc backs that call, claiming that every retiree needs the extra cash, and now warns it may not vote for Carney's first budget. Their pitch sounds compassionate, but their proposal won't lift most of the 400,000 seniors who are poor above the poverty line. What it will do is pad the finances of retirees who already have six-figure incomes and add another $3 billion to the deficit. Let's be clear, helping poor retirees is a duty. Subsidizing affluence is a waste. You don't need to dig through government spreadsheets to see the problem. We can spot it almost every week in the personal finance section of the Globe and Mail, where I write a regular column. But in its most popular series, The Financial Facelift, we have financial advisors regularly giving advice to Canadians about how they can fine-tune their retirement plans. Their advice is invariably sound, but it also reveals how old age security has drifted from protecting insecure retirees to padding the comfort of affluence. In one recent feature, a couple with $4.4 million in assets was told they could retire early, gift $250,000 to their child, spend $100,000 a year after tax, and expect, quote, only a small OAS clawback. Another pair, currently sitting on $7 million in assets, was projected to leave an $11 million estate, all while collecting OAS. These people aren't doing anything wrong. They're following the incentives that Ottawa created, but those incentives are broken. A program meant to prevent insecurity has become a fixture of wealth management. And that's why OAS needs its own financial facelift. Old age security is now the single biggest driver of federal deficits. It costs $42 billion more than a decade ago and adds more to red ink than childcare, than pharmacare, than dental care or defense. Interest payment on the debt will soon exceed every federal program except OAS itself. This was predicted decades ago. Jean Chrétien's budgets in the mid-1990s warned it. When Mr. Poilievre's party was last in power, he summarized the problem as follows. By the early 2030s, quote, the number of people on OAS will double, the cost will triple, and the number of taxpayers supporting each retiree will fall by half. Similarly, Mark Carney in his book Values offered the same warning. Quote, social welfare systems designed and enjoyed by previous generations will prove, absent reform, unaffordable for future ones. The Prime Minister is right, and OAS is case in point, especially because it is poorly targeted. Today, a retired couple can have $182,000 in income and still receive the full $18,000 OAS subsidy, while families with children begin losing the Canada Child Benefit $100,000 earlier. Younger Canadians already squeezed by housing, tuition, and childcare costs are now paying 20 to 40% more in income taxes to subsidize healthy retirements for boomers than boomers contributed back for seniors in their day. There is a better path. A better path. It starts by scaling back OAS a little for households with incomes above $100,000. If we were to do so, Canada would save $7 billion a year, enough to virtually eliminate seniors' poverty by adding $5,000 for every retiree below the poverty line, while stabilizing federal finances and freeing billions for housing, education, and childcare doing all of that without increasing tax rates. This reform is backed by 3/4 of Canadians. It is affirmed by the Globe and Mail editorial board, the publisher of The Hub, the lead reporter for the National Observer, reflecting thought leadership from the right, center, and left of media. It is supported by the anti-poverty community and by think tanks on the center right. So as Parliament enters this budget season, our message from Generation Squeeze is simple. Prime Minister Carney's first budget must prove he can stand up to the retiree lobby and the Bloc Québécois. Passing that test would deliver the financial facelift Ottawa needs, ending waste, focusing compassion where it is needed most, and ensuring our politics are not held hostage by those who already have enough. Thank you.
Really good to see you again, Rahim Mohammed, National Post.
Nice to see you, Rahim.
In a former life, Central College of Kentucky. Really good to see you again. So if I understand correctly, what you're putting forward is two things. You want to block the untargeted hikes being put forward by the Bloc and the retirement lobby, and you also want to pare back the threshold for the full $18,000 benefit by around $80,000. So it's currently $180,000. You would like to see that down to $100,000 and lower. The economic reasoning is sound. What is the political pathway to doing this? So we saw in the last federal election the 65 and over bloc, I think, was critical to the Carney government or the Liberals winning a fourth term, even with the Poilievre-led Conservatives scaling back some of what Harper was proposing to do for retirement. He said that he would keep the retirement age at 65, for example. So what's a political pathway for getting this done when the 65 and over demographic votes in larger numbers than other demos and seems to still hold a lot of sway over who forms government?
Yeah, great. You've nailed the technical details that we're proposing, both the resisting the blanket increase and then changing the clawback somewhat in order to repurpose funding. But remember the goal. The goal here is to eliminate seniors' poverty, also free up cash to help income insecure younger people, and trim the deficit. All without raising taxes. And how do we do that? Well, I think the path forward is, on the one hand, created a lot of political safety because polling shows that 3/4 of Canadians, including 3/4 of retirees, support the reform idea if the savings are used to help other poor retirees and or their kids and grandchildren. We literally could bring up a raft of individuals who would stand beside a minister and say, I'm willing to take less OAS if those savings will help my kids and grandchildren. In addition, you can see that for the government in power, the opposition can be less ferocious in its attack because Hansard will have many an example of Mr. Poilievre rightly point out to the same problems with OAS that I've just highlighted. I gave you a quote earlier. He is on the record saying we need these kinds of reforms. Our proposal is slightly different than what Prime Minister Harper had proposed when the Conservatives were left in office. It would save precisely the same amount of money, but in this case, not leave 65 and 66-year-olds who are actually economically vulnerable without the supports that our financial security system now provides. And so it is doing a better job of actually reducing that income security than the previous plan while saving the same amount of money. And I think that actually provides an antidote to one of the political weaknesses of what was proposed back by the Conservatives. So how do you do it? In a nutshell, it is a political win to end seniors' poverty, I think, for any party. And that is something that I think the Liberals and others could campaign on successfully. And when we do it with this moment of austerity where we're saying we need to have austerity in the budget, we're not proposing to spend anymore. But consistent with the Prime Minister's vision, we need to spend smarter. And that is the plan here, to increase our ambition to address major social problems while doing so within the existing spending envelope.
Sure. And just as a quick follow-up, I know that you've personally done work with, I guess, the BC wing of the NDP on 10-a-day childcare and other projects in your home province. Are you planning to meet with any of the 7 members of the NDP's federal caucus while you're here in Ottawa to discuss this idea for them? I believe number that the shortfall of Liberal MPs for a majority is about 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
So
yep.
if that kind of 7-member bloc were to kind of move towards your idea, that could make the math work. Are you planning to meet with either Mr. Davies or any of the other members of the NDP caucus? I believe 3 of whom are based in British Columbia.
Yeah. Well, Gen Squeeze meets with all parties. We welcome all meetings when they're either solicited or we can arrange them. The current focus of our time here is both to support the current government and also to help them engage the Bloc Québécois in a better strategy to achieve the Bloc aspiration. They want to help those retirees who need it. Our proposal does a better job of that. $5,000 for every poor retiree, not the $890 that the Bloc is putting on the table, and doing so without adding billions to the deficit. So that's our strategy at this particular.
Meetings with NDP.
Not with the NDP at this particular moment. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci. Ça conclut cette conférence de presse.